to the Mousey Makes podcast. I'm Helen and it's lovely to have you here with me. Today I am going to have a little bit of a chat about bullet journals, and I'm also going to take you out on a little walk in the winter sunshine and maybe a bit of snow as well. So bullet journals. I better start off by saying what my idea of a bullet journal is. I think if you look on bullet journal websites and Pinterest and places like that, you'll sort of get the feeling that a bullet journal is kind of a planner, I suppose, and a way of helping you increase your productivity and and tracking the kind of things that you do. If you want to keep a track of the exercise you do, or how much you're drinking and things like that. But really, my view of a bullet journal is that it can be anything that you want it to be, but basically it's a notebook that looks a bit prettier than your normal notebook. You spend a little bit more time thinking about how things look. If you saw a couple of episodes ago, you'll see I use notebooks in lots of different ways, and I do have the kind of notebook where I'm not in the slightest bit bothered about how it looks. And my bullet journals are just a special kind of notebook where I do spend a little bit more time. I'm not in a rush to fill them in ever. But really, I mean, that's just my way of using it. And there are loads of different ways of using it. There's not one way that is the right way. You just have to do whatever you would like to do. Some people use them more as a kind of an art journal, and they do lots of artwork. And maybe that is actually called an art journal rather than a bullet journal. There's a whole range of things that could be called a bullet journal. I think one of the features probably of most bullet journals is that people tend to write in notebooks that are not lined or blank pages, but actually have a dot grid. And that really is useful if you're wanting to lay out tables or calendars and things like that. So the dots are really very helpful, or they're helpful for when you're doing a bit of fancy writing and you want to keep all of your letters an even size. So the dots are pretty good. My first 3 bullet journals were a dot grid on one side and lines on the other side. My more recent ones is all dot grid. So a bullet journal, you don't have to be an artist in the, what do you mean by artist? That's whole other question. You don't have to feel like you're really, really great at drawing or doing posh writing to be able to have a bullet journal. I mean, there's lots of places you can look to get ideas for things to draw and to copy, or you can buy stencils, or there's all sorts of things, stickers you can put in. You don't have to be great at drawing. You just have to, I think, want to make things look really, really lovely. Although the thing with that is that you haven't got to be a perfectionist. That's a bit of a problem. That can be quite a problem. Yes, can be a bit of a problem when you're trying to get things perfect. I might talk about that separately. So you've seen, if you saw a couple of episodes ago, glimpses of my first 2 bullet journals, and in those I really was practicing trying out other people's ideas. I was copying pictures, I was copying different writing styles, and in those bullet journals I did have some things that I've carried on doing. So I still have write down calendars for each month. What else do I do the same? I have a page or 2 of when people's birthdays and anniversaries are. I still have loads and loads of quotes that I like to write out nicely, colour in and things, because I just love quotes. What else is it? So that's more or less what's the same. And the thing that changed, really, it started to change a bit more in my 3rd bullet journal in 2019, which I'm going to show you a few video clips of next. And you'll see that really my bullet journal became a bit more of a scrapbook, and recording and sticking lots of things in. That's the thing. My third bullet journal, so that was my first one, and that was my second one, so they're about that thick. But my third one, you can see, is so much thicker because I stuck loads of things in. Yeah, so it became much more of a memory keeping thing, and I've got tickets from theatre and cinema, and pictures of holidays, not actually photos that I've taken, that's kind of a separate thing, but pamphlets that you pick up, and so that's how that must change. So have a little look now anyway of what's inside the 2019 bullet journal. So that's a little bit of a view into this particular bullet journal for 2019. And one of the things I forgot to say is that I discovered washi tape. So yeah, washi tape is I think it's masking tape. So it's tape that you can, if you put it down, you can peel it off without it, it doesn't stick really well. And so I have quite a lot of washi tape. I'll show you some closer up pictures of it now. I have some favourites. I have some that people have given me, some that I've bought myself. I think one of my favourites is the Herdy washi tape. And yeah, and I have some nice piano keyboard washi tape, some with music on, spots, stripes, flowers. Well, that's a lovely one, that one there, that flowery one. And yeah, I have a couple of boxes of washi tapes and they're really nice to use in bullet journals. They really finish off a page very nicely. I'll also have some Christmas ones, yes, so as well, they're very nice, but they'll have to be put away for another year. And oh yeah, here's another nice one, this one with books on it. You'll have seen that on some pages already, so very nice. So washi tape, yes, a marvellous thing, great discovery. So there we go. So that was 2019, and I'll put that to one side, and you'll see that 2020 was not nearly so thick. I wonder why that could be. Yeah, well, it's very interesting looking back at the beginning of 2020, when I'm completely innocent of what was going to happen to our world. And yeah, I think it's quite interesting. I've got on the very first page, it takes as long as it takes. Be gentle on yourself. And underneath the year that I've got written there, and now we welcome a new year full of things that have never been. Yeah, absolutely, couldn't have been truer, and yet I didn't know. So where 2019 had become a bit of a scrapbook, really, a memory keeping bullet journal, 2020 began that way, and it may well have ended up being just as thick and packed with things stuck in. It certainly started that way. I had a trip away, and in February, I had a couple of trips away in February actually, with friends, and so I have things stuck in for there. I had a meal out, been to the theatre, and then it all stopped after that. Yeah, and it's really interesting to look through this now, because my focus became, you can tell it became very much close to home. I started recording the birds that I've seen and the flowers, and recording walks that I went on, and yeah, it's really, really interesting. And of course I have recorded a few things to do with the pandemic. I've got another separate scrapbook actually, which is a pandemic scrapbook, with photos and things in. But I have recorded some of my thoughts about the pandemic in here as well. So I'm going to give you a little look through this one now. So just a few little clips of what's inside this one. You may also notice that I was using a different make of bullet journal for this one. It's a Zen bullet journal, that one is. And my previous ones were made by Paper, Paipur. And this one is all dot grid, and the dots are fairly close together. So it's really useful when you're wanting to rule lines or get your writing an even size or whatever. Yeah, so that's 2020, and finally we come to 2021, which is another Zen one, nice pink one. And you'll see one of the things I do actually is I use these sticky tabs, I suppose, which are removable, but that helps me to find pages that I go to regularly. I've got actually used a bit of washi tape to mark where my books are, the books that I've read, and this one here is recording the walks that I go on, so I fill that in most days, so I have a tab that helps me get to that one there. And there's not much in this one yet, But a couple of things that are different that I haven't done before, just things I chose to do, not particularly different in the look of it. And one of the things is that I have on the first page decided to make a declaration, and I got this idea from a podcast I was watching, and the name of it has just gone out of my head. Something gypsy. I shall put a link to it below. So this lovely lady called Wendy keeps an art journal, so slightly different to mine, and she showed that she, at the start of a new journal, she puts a declaration in, which basically is declaring that the bullet journal is for her benefit and kind of allowing yourself to do with it whatever you want. And I like that idea, so I sort of adapted the words that she'd used in hers. So you'll see that, and I'll show you that in a moment. The other thing I did that was that I haven't done before is something that I think quite a lot of people do this, and that is to choose a focus word for the year. I haven't done it before. I just came across somebody doing that recently, and I thought, if I did that, which word would I choose? And the first word that came to mind is the one that I've chosen, which is the word trust. I could think of a few quotes that have got the word trust in it. It just felt the right thing to do. So I'll show you that in a moment as well, because I've written that on the inside cover of my bullet journal. And so I've started this by doing a couple of calendar pages. I have just used one for January, one for February, because my life is not full of social engagements at the moment, other than on Zoom. And you might think it's a bit strange to draw out a calendar page, but I like, when you can buy a diary with the things written out, but I like that process of slowly drawing out all of the days. It kind of gives you a sense of the time that is to come. And because I like illustrating the months and colouring it in a little bit, drawing a few little pictures. As usual, I've got books a place for recording books that I've read, books that are in my queue, which is a bit of a large list. I've started recording walks again. I've got a couple of pages here where I've copied from last year the birds that I spotted last year in the garden and out and about, and then just a place for ticking whether I see them again this year. And I've done the same with wildflowers, written all of the wildflowers that I saw, and then if I see them again this year, I'm going to tick. And then finally, I think this is the only other thing in here at the moment, is a couple of pages of something called the 100-Day Project, which I decided to take part in this year. And I will talk more about that in another podcast, because that's a whole other topic there. So there we go. So I'll give you just a very little bit of a glimpse into what I've got in this one so far. So I hope you've got a reasonable idea now of how I use my bullet journals, and I'm not sure, it's not really been a tutorial on how to do one, but you might see things that you might like to try in your own bullet journals or notebooks. It can just be a notebook, and you can just experiment with, recording things, and you only have to try it out. There really is no wrong way of doing a bullet journal. You can make it your very own unique bit of recording. Yeah. So I'm going to take you out on a little walk now. We've had some lovely, clear, sunny days where in the winter sunshine, where there was no snow on the ground, but it was just lovely light. And we have had a bit of snow as well again. So here we go. Let's go outside.
An excerpt from Sightings by Kathleen Jamie. Every year, in the third week of February, there is a day, or more usually a run of days, when one can say for sure that the light is back. Some juncture has been reached, and the light spills into the world from a sun suddenly higher in the sky. Today is such a day. Though the trees are still stark and without leaves, the grasses are dry and winter-beaten. The sun is still low in the sky, even at noon, hanging over the hills southwest. Its light spills out of the southwest, the same direction as the wind. Both sunlight and wind arrive together out of the same earth, an invasion of light and air out of a sky of quickly moving clouds, working together as a swift team. The wind lifts the grasses and moves the thin branches of the leafless trees, and the sun shines on them in one movement, so light and air are as one, two aspects of the same entity. When, by Dorothy Aldis. In February there are days, blue and nearly warm, when horses twitch their tails and ducks go quacking through the farm, when everything turns round to feel the sun upon its back, when winter lifts a little bit and spring peeks through the crack.
Well, that's quite enough of me rambling on today, I think. Time for me to go. Thanks for spending your time with me. I'll be back again next week. And I am still keeping up with my plan of putting a podcast out on a Monday. Anyway, I'm trying to do it on a regular weekly basis so that you know when to have a look. Or you could, of course, subscribe and click on the notifications bell, and then it will actually, hopefully, tell you on some device or other that there's a new podcast. So anyway, that's all from me today. So I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye.